Would Shane Beamer leave South Carolina for Virginia Tech? The job is open, and so is the discussion. My answer, I don't think so, but some of that might depend on us. Locked On Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler. Hope everyone's having a fantastic day. It's a Monday, so I doubt that's even possible, like I always say. Before we get started, I want to say thank you to everyone making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. We're a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Do me a favor, like, subscribe, especially on YouTube, and as well on Apple, Spotify, whatever it is you're listening to or watching us. It only helps the show grow and gets us more resources and better content and all the above. Hopefully we'll have some better content this weekend, considering what happened against Vanderbilt. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a lot of things on the show. Before we do, I want to say thank you to our friends at FanDuel, because today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. All right. I hate that we're talking about this in week 3 of the season. There's also a sick part of me that's okay with talking about it because I'm still so distraught over what I saw on the field on Saturday. Listen, Virginia Tech starts 0-3. They fire their coach. Shane Beamer is the very first name that is linked to the job. Will Shane Beamer leave South Carolina for Virginia Tech? My immediate answer is no. There's a number of reasons why. I'm going to get into all of them. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about some of the rumors that we heard today come out about Mike Shula, and also just get into some of the offensive woes, because I don't know if the rumors are actual, like, substantiated rumors. I do know the offensive struggles are, and I will get into all those things. That'll be the format for today's show. But I want to go back and start with this about Shane Beamer. Would he leave for Virginia Tech? My immediate answer is no. Then the other part of me, as soon as that comes out of my mouth, the next thought is, well, maybe. And let me explain why. There's an old saying in coaching. There's a thing over here I got from like my grandparents when I was a kid. This Bear Bryant bottle sits right next to my Morgan Freeman Ole Miss bobblehead. That is not pro Ole Miss, but very pro Morgan Freeman. But the Bear Bryant thing, he had a quote that's very storied and famous when he went to Alabama way, way back in the day and said, "Mama called." He went to Kentucky, then he was at Texas A&M, but he played at Alabama in college. He said, "Mama called." There's a part of this with Beamer that you look at it, and maybe that's like I don't want to say Papa call. That feels weird. But his dad being the coach there, I mean, Shane Beamer's name has been linked to this job opening since he left in 2015. It will continue to be linked to it until, if he ever would take the job. It makes sense, right? Like, if Nick Saban had a son that was into coaching, he's not, but if he was into coaching, and he was having success at, I don't know, Kentucky, yeah, and if they fired DeBoer or whatever, it would make sense that his name would be linked to it. I'm trying to think of a different example. If Sam Pittman's the best example. If Bob Stoops had a kid, I could see it being linked to Oklahoma. Pete Carroll had a kid. It would be linked to Southern Cal, right? All of those things make sense. They make sense to me. There's a part of that. He grew up there. He moved there when he was 10. He grew up in Blacksburg. Like, it's a place that is clearly very special to him, and a program that's very special to him because it's what he knew growing up. His Virginia Tech, his core memories in football is like what we have for our favorite teams in South Carolina, and like, it's like not pro football, but like that's what he grew up doing on Saturdays. Like, instead of going to the fairgrounds and tailgating and waiting for the sun to hopefully go down in Willie B and playing Sandstorm in 2001 and all those things, he was in Lane Stadium in Blacksburg and Enter Sandman, all those things. So I get it. It makes sense. Brad Crawford does a phenomenal job with 247 and CBS Sports. He had a quote on this, and they brought up the fact that, obviously Brent Pry leaves for their 0-3 start. His exact quote, let's see what Beamer said first off. He said, I think the week of the Virginia Tech game, I told everyone how I feel about South Carolina and my love for this place. That's where my focus is right now, getting our football team better because I don't like where we're at right now, and that's my responsibility. I'll be 1,000% honest with you. No part of that sentence makes me feel like he's leaving. If I'm also being honest with you, I don't love the answer. I don't love the answer. Maybe it's because I've seen too many coaches say certain things and do something different. And I'm not saying that's what he's doing at all. Me personally, I don't love the answer as much as I would have loved. No, I'm staying here. But I also believe Beamer when he says that kind of stuff, right? Like, I think Beamer is a man of conviction. I think he's a man of I don't think moral integrity plays into this necessarily because it's a business, that he wouldn't be immoral for taking another job. But I don't think he's a guy that's going to lie to your face. He just seems like the kind of guy that wears his emotions on his sleeve and tells you how he feels. And I don't love the answer. I also don't know what answer he could have given besides no, next question, done. That I would have been like, that I like. So that's just my reaction in real time giving to you guys. I'm not speculating at all on that. The other comment that was made that I will speculate on is what Brad Crawford said about a source that he said CBS Sports reached out to a source close to South Carolina immediately after Pry's firing and asked about Beamer. Quote, he isn't going back there unless Gamecock fans turn on him, which could happen, the source said, noting Beamer still believes he can bring an SEC championship to South Carolina. Here's the reasons why I don't think he would leave. The reason why he would leave: family ties, familiarity, probably a fertile recruiting ground in Virginia Beach area, and then Virginia. He's brought kids from here to here from that area, like a good recruiting base. Being in the ACC, easier path to get to places, right? But again, like it's the familiarity and like nostalgia and all that kind of stuff and family ties that would bring him there. Here's why he wouldn't and why I don't think he will. Resources. Love of where he's at, right? Like he's like, it's really cool to go do something. He went to, let me make sure we're having technical difficulties over here. He went to Virginia Tech, and that's his alma mater, right? Like I get it. I don't think he's going to get the same type of resources there as he's going to get here. I know for a fact the facilities aren't even close. The competition's not even close. What they've invested into the football program already and what they're prepared to invest into it in the future is nowhere close. If we're being honest, Inner Sandman's pretty cool. Lane Stadium kind of sucks. That's it. I don't know. I've never been to Blacksburg. I don't want to speak ignorantly of it, but I will because it's my job. It doesn't seem like it would be better than Columbia. I don't know, though. But the main thing is he's never going to get the resources, the NIL resources, the facility resources, and the opportunities at Virginia Tech that he's going to get at South Carolina. Period. Just period. Like you're not going to be in a situation, Virginia Tech, where somebody's going to be as committed to your program, especially with all the success they're already having at other parts of the athletic department. The investment they're going to put into baseball this year, what we saw in the turnaround in softball, obviously what Don Staley's done with women's basketball, what you're expecting Lamont Paris to do in men's basketball. School's growing. Columbia's growing. It's a great place to live. I loved my time in Columbia. They're getting millions of dollars in resources and funding and NIL and boosters and like, the stuff with like the on-field logos and sponsorships and all those things. Like it's all at the highest it's ever been. You're not going to get that at Virginia Tech. You're just not. And I think the other main thing is there's something really cool to be said about going back where you're from, and going to win something at a place that you graduated from or at a place that your dad had a lot of success, there's also really something to be said for being able to go out on your own, make your own path, win on that path, and create your own legacy that will never, ever, ever be in the shadow of your father. And I don't think that's necessarily the only selling point, obviously. I don't think that's the case. But there's never been a time where I've heard from Beamer, him speak, whether it be directly to me at media days or in like an interview, or if you heard him on the teleconference, or if you just heard him at a press conference, on TV, whatever. There's never been a part of me that feels like he's being disingenuous about how much he loves Columbia, South Carolina, and the University of South Carolina. There are other coaches that do that. People think about Brian Kelly all the time, right? Every Auburn coach has been there. It feels like Tommy Tuberville was, this is a deep cut, but he had the whole thing about being I'm not leaving Ole Miss, so I'm in a pine box. Hugh Freeze the Ole Miss, Hugh Freeze the Auburn. There's tons of coaches that sell you on that. Jim McElwain, like Dan Mullen, like they'll sell you on a place that they love, and then it's like you find out afterwards, like, I kind of hate it. But I do think the part where he said he's not going back there unless Gamecock fans turn on him, I think that's important. I'm pissed after the game on Saturday. That in no way has altered my thought process or my feelings or knowledge, to be honest, of who I think should be in charge. And that's Shane Beamer. Shane Beamer's the right person for this job. He may need to make some tinker with a couple of things, but you think about where this program is right now versus where it was, right? And the recruiting stuff. And here's the thing you have to think about in this day and age. You cannot put this in a vacuum and say, look where we are in comparison to just Will Muschamp or just Steve Spurrier. Well, we had all those wins. We had 11 wins and 11 wins for 3 years in a row under Spurrier. Right, you did. Then also think about what happened before Spurrier was there, and think about the first several years when Spurrier was there. Think about when Muschamp was here, and in the last couple of years. Like, you cannot look at one of these things in a vacuum of and independent of the other ones. Like, they should all be combined. The other thing that you have to take into account, I'm a firm believer, you do not need to compare yourself to another school. Like, a lot of teams did this with Alabama when they were winning under Saban. You've just rifling through coaches because they weren't winning at this level. Like, Florida's in trouble because they're not keeping up with Tennessee and Georgia and all that kind of stuff. But like, that's what they're comparing themselves to, and they're not giving coaches enough time to do that. Dan Mullen's a perfect example of that. You cannot sit here and look at this job and say, well, it's not as good as it was from 2011 to 2013. Sure, no other 3 years in the history of the program have been that good. But it's also important to not just compare yourselves in a negative way to others, but take into account, man, look what he's built at the time he's built it. Look at what he's done at the time he's built it. Like, all these other the NIL era, the transfer portal era, the retention he's been able to have as a program, and then also trying to figure out ways to compete with Georgia and Clemson and Alabama and now Oklahoma and Texas and LSU. And it's like, and these are all in your conference. Shane Beamer's the right person for the job. Shane Beamer knows that. I think just as of today, if they go, if it goes off the rails, I understand the outbursts and outrage or whatever. But right now, on September 15th, especially of 2025, that man deserves all of the support and confidence from this fan base going into the rest of the season. I've gone way over the first segment of the episode, so we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to pay some bills, talk about our friends at the Gamecocks, and a few other things, and then we'll get into some rumors that came out with Mike Shula. But that's where I stand with the Shane Beamer stuff, guys. That's how I feel personally. And you guys may disagree. Let me know in the comments. Tell me on Twitter, whatever, Vern_Funquist, like whatever. Tell me all those things. But that's where I personally feel right now. And, we don't have to agree, but I hope you do. Anyway, we'll be right back with more Locked On Gamecocks right after this. All right. Before we get back into the episode, I want to pay some bills real quick. And first and foremost, I want to give a shout out to the game caps. I'm wearing a game cap right now. It is one of 3 that I have. I love these hats so much. That white one, I almost don't even want to put it on in the background because it's so nice. But I tell you what, quick question for all you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time, sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? Yes, I said hat. For me, it would be the game. These aren't just hats. They're the same vintage style hats that fans wore back in the 80s, back in the 90s. And guess what? They still go for the same price they did back then that they go for today. When you use the code LOCKEDON, all capital letters, all one word, you will get a vintage hat of your choice for $16.99. Head to thegamecaps.com. That's thegamecaps.com. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design like I have back here. Maybe you want to grab this one. Right? That's also a classic. Multiple colors, all sorts of stuff, great styles. And use the code, like I said, locked on, all capital letters, all one word for an exclusive discount because legends wear the game. Also, oh boy, I needed a couple of these today and yesterday, if we're being honest. I was dragging yesterday, but no more. Thanks to our friends at 5 Hour Energy. I'll tell you what, caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere. Get that boost when you need it. I took a watermelon one on Saturday night at about 8:30 to help get me through the rest of the night. It was a long day for me out there in the sun, out there in the press box, out there watching the dang South Carolina Vanderbilt game. But 5 Hour Energy got me through the night, and it helped get me through the day the next day as well. And I really, really can't tell you enough how much I appreciate it. Enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine, okay? Enough with all that. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. All right, let's get back into this for a second. I don't even know if we should be giving this the attention it's getting. Because I haven't seen it reported anywhere that I trust. I saw Barstool Gamecocks posted, which they follow me on Twitter. They seem nice, whatever. So shout out them. But here's the thing, okay? There was reports coming out, and it's not just that account that tweeted that Mike Shula is feeling has anxiety calling the plays. Like I said, I don't know if any of that's true. I don't know if any of that's true. I do know that's a real thing, right? Like it's a real thing. And I'm not going to sit here and chastise someone for feeling anxious. I feel anxious too, brother. Like we're all pretty anxious right now trying to figure out how to get the offense going. And, that's all I know to say about that. But I also think that is as unsubstantiated, I think that's a word, as those reports are. The big thing for me is there's still things to do with the offense. I'm not going to sit here and weigh in or chastise someone or criticize somebody for having anxiety. Mental health's a real thing. I have ADHD. I was diagnosed with stuff like that. And I believe in all those things, anxiety, all those things. But I think it's real. I also know that at the same time, we all have jobs to do. And this is one for Mike Shula. So if that's the case, I hope we sort all that out. But the more important part is the offense for what we're going to talk about, at least not in his life, but just in the offense and what we can talk about here. Because regardless of why it's happening, it is happening. Okay. And you look at the numbers from the offense and Brad Crawford, again, I'm going to go to my guy here. Love him to death. Does a great job. I reported, or not reported, but I brought some of this up the other day. And some of it is stuff that is not new to anybody. Okay. But I brought some of it up the other day and I'll just read off a list that he also brought up. I brought this up on yesterday's pod and he has it in a tweet. So you can go check that out too. South Carolina's offensive numbers after week 3, okay? After your first 3 games. Total offense, last in the SEC, 303 yards per game. Rushing offense, last in the SEC, 110 yards per game. Sacks allowed, last in the SEC with 8 allowed in 3 games. First downs, 52, last in the SEC. Scoring offense, 23 points per game, second to last, 15th. Tackles for loss allowed, 20, second to last in the SEC. I'm going to tell you why that's a big concern here in a second. Third down rate, this is huge. 30.5%, that's second to last in the SEC as well. Red zone rate, second to last in the SEC. This is kind of what your defense did to other teams. And now it's what we're seeing from the offense. Now, I want to remind everyone, it was last year, because I remember I brought out that damn notebook and sat here in front of you and said, hey, here's everything that like you could think of from an offensive statistical category. And I'm going to tell you what South Carolina ranks in the nation. And I'm going to tell you what they rank in the SEC. And I think we did 30 stats. They only ranked in the top 5, and one of them, it was punts, like yards per punt. Everything else was way, way, way down. And Dowell Loggins was able to figure it out. I don't know if that's going to be the case with Mike Shula. I do know there seem to be some certainties and some frustrations with what we're seeing that need to be fixed. And the first thing on that is you got to do what works. Like at some point, you've got to figure out, like, hey, this is what we're able to do well. This is what we're not able to do well, and figure that out. You're also going to have to figure out a situation or figure out how to get into a place where you're able to start growing on the fly. Like, I kind of thought that we were going to see some freshman receivers get their feet wet and get, baptized in the fire of the SEC, not the SEC, but baptized in the fire of college football before the SEC game started, or with Vandy. And now we're talking about going into a Missouri game where you're almost a 2-touchdown underdog, which we'll talk about in the next segment, a 2-touchdown underdog, and you got to figure out what to do here. Now, there's also some stuff that I feel like is not the worst. Like, I'm not. Lenore Sellers is the key to a lot of this. Lenore Sellers missing that touchdown pass really bummed me out. The interception through the no cycle, it's a great defensive play call from Clark Lee, but that kind of read where you had 2 guys that probably would have scored if you just layer that throw correctly, that kind of stuff can't happen. Like, it does happen all the time, but it's not going to win you games, right? Like it will lose you games. That's not why they lost to Vanderbilt. Let me be clear. But when he left, you ran, I think it was 41 plays on offense. 41 plays on offense, and when that with those 41 plays, you had, I think, 184 total yards of offense, and then you had 3 turnovers. Like you lost the turnover battle 4-1. Oh boy. And that's obviously an issue. All right. Sorry. We got work stuff and technical difficulties. It's been a weird Monday show. Back to what we're talking about, the offense. And I'll be honest, we had to pause for a second, so I'll try to pick up where we left off, but I'm a little bit confused. I think the easiest thing to say moving forward is this, like, the uncertainty. We're not going to know until Wednesday anything on Lenoris. Beamer said it was a injury he wasn't going to get into the specifics on Sunday, so we won't know anything until Wednesday on the specifics, right? I don't know if he's expected to play or not. I do know the line opened at 6.5 and jumped all the way up to 12.5 and then 13.5 in one day. So that is concerning. It doesn't mean that it's, they're going to lose necessarily just because of the line. But you are going to lose if you don't shore up some things on this team. You've got to figure out a way to get better on the fly. That's a really hard thing to do in the SEC. You think about last year, you went on the road against Bama. You barely lost that game against Bama, and you felt really good, I think, leaving there. Even though the loss sucked and you were so close, you felt like this sense of confidence, like, okay, we got something to build on. I don't know if they go beat Missouri as of Monday. I might be able to talk myself into it in a couple of days. But I do know that, what this team needs more than anything is something to build off of. Figure out a way to get the explosive working in the passing game. I feel pretty safe to say I don't think the run game is going to be something we're going to be able to depend on right now. Blocking and pushing people around is not something this offensive line has been able to do. But let's figure out a way you can shore up the passing game. Get some explosives. Figure out a way that even without Lenoris, if he's not able to play, we're not turning the ball over 3 times. Get better on third downs. And most importantly, you've got to figure out a way to get yourself into third and short. You're 2-1. The sky is not necessarily falling. But I will also say this. Some things need to change and change quickly. And credit Dow Loggins a year ago when he was on the staff as the OC, as frustrating as it was, and there was people, including me, calling for his job at the halfway point because of what all the numbers said and what we had been watching. Like, you've got to figure out a way for Mike Shula and this team and the play calling to get better and make a change. What they're doing right now is not working. And maybe we're all overreacting because you got your butt kicked by Vanderbilt. I don't know. But something has to change. It's got to change quickly. And that's my initial thought in Mizzou. Now, leading up to this week, I'll tell you what the plan is. We're going to record a crossover episode with John Miller from Mizzou Locked On. He does a great job. We'll talk about Mizzou a bunch, Mizzou a bunch during the week. Have some people behind the scenes talk about it as well. Just get yourself familiar with it. They're a really good football team. But South Carolina has the ability to be a good football team, okay? They've got to figure out a way to block out the noise, get out on the road, a place they had a lot of success last year, and get back to basics and figure out how to be a winning team because they have the pieces in place to do it. It's just about putting it together. Remember, this was a 3-3 team last year that ended up knocking on the door of the playoff. Losing by 24 does not feel good. They lost by 24 to Ole Miss and were able to turn around. I want you to win. I want you to win every time you lace up. Every time you put on garnet and black and the script Carolina across the chest, you should want to go win a football game, a baseball game, a basketball game, what the hell ever. Okay? If it's intramural pogo sticking, anytime that logo's on your chest or helmet or pogo stick, you want to win. But what I need this week is something to build off of. That's what we need more than anything. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show as well. Now, before we close out today's show, do you want to give a quick little shout out to our friends at FanDuel? Guys, I cannot stress this enough. Now's the best time more than ever to jump in on the FanDuel. The NFL season's here. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for a kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I tell you what, I love doing it because I put my $5 in. I got my fiance to start an account, put her $5 in. She had a terrible bet and lost, but I bet on the Falcons to upset Minnesota last night, and lo and behold, it happened, shockingly. And now we have $300 in the account that I told her we're going to share together and use as a wedding fund, which... wish us luck. But I tell you what, if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Also, want to give a shout out to our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks. I tell you what, guys, this episode is also brought to you by them, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. I did this all March Madness, and it was so much fun. Betting on over three-pointers, over points scored, over rebounds, what have you, and won big. And the best part about it, quick and easy cash outs, quick and easy paydays. And I tell you what, if you sign up today, if you download the Prize Picks app, use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all capital letters, all one word, to get $50 in lineups after your first play in your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, let's close out the show right after this. All right. 13.5-point underdog to Mizzou. You need Lenore Sellers in this game. That's an obvious. Hopefully he's available. We'll find out more as the week goes on. You also have to look big picture here. You have Kentucky the following week. That feels like a game you should be able to win. But I think Saturday was a reminder of just how important Lenore Sellers is to this team. I love Luke Doty, man. in this day and age of football, it's very hard to figure out a player that's going to stick around, stay true to the school he's at. He's earned every single bit of playing time he deserves, right? And listen, he got thrown into a fire against a really good team. But it also shows you just how important this quarterback, Lenore Sellers, is to the team. Gotta improve on stuff, and it's not just quarterback play. It's the third down thing, getting ahead of the chains, and more than anything, what I was mostly disappointed in, or what I was disappointed in the most, I should say, on Saturday, was a lack of composure. And this team had fought through so much adversity last season, and seemingly rose above it, and it felt like things went against you. I wouldn't even say not your way. Things went against you unfairly at times. Saturday night, and in the moment, the brief window of time when that happened, it felt like everything came unglued. I love Shane Beamer fighting for his team. Love it. We need Shane Beamer to be in the games and not kicked out, which I know he wasn't. This isn't like Little League baseball. But Dylan Stewart can't get ejected and get unsportsmanlike conduct penalties and stuff like that. But I say all that to also say it was so good to see the fire there and the frustration. Hopefully that carries over to practice this week, and you see some guys going out here and fighting for their playoff lives. That's where we're at, right? Like, this was supposed to be the easy part of the schedule, and I think that there's a lot of stuff to improve. I have no doubt in my mind that this team will go out and improve it. And I want to remind you of one thing too. There's times last season that we counted this team out, counted out Shane Beamer, questioned all the decisions made. We're frustrated with the way the offense looked. Old Dominion thought the sky was falling, the season was over. Right? I mean, like, they were an 8.5 point to Kentucky the next week. 8.5 point underdog to Kentucky the next week. And they won that game by like 26 points, 25 points. Like, the Bama game, you lose, then you got to go to Oklahoma. That line opens at 4.5 or 5.5. You win that game by 26 points. Like, there's been several times where we've counted this team out after the Ole Miss game and all that kind of stuff where they have bounced back. We just need them to bounce back again. They've shown it before. The resiliency. No one thought, November of 2022 was coming. No one thought the last 6 games of last year were coming. Believe in this team. It's still plenty of season left. Bad loss, but it's okay. So, anyway, that is all for today's episode. I appreciate you guys. Hope you have a great rest of your evening or Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon, whenever you listen to this. Can't say how much I appreciate you guys enough, man. This has been a frustrating couple of days, but I'm glad we get to still do this, obviously, and come on here and talk about the game. And we got a lot more to talk about coming up. So until next time, go Cox.